Welcome to The Poetry Joint, a podcast about poets, poems, and poetics. My name, Stephen Donahue. I have a scant knowledge of poetry, and that is the starting point for this podcast, to see what I can learn.
There's a light on in the attic. I can see it from the outside, and I know you're on the inside, looking out.
Exploring good poetry, bad poetry, sonnets, couplets, ballads, rhyme, no rhyme, grand verse, silly verse, concrete poetry, liquid poetry, words with meaning, words without meaning, old poets, young poets, radical poets, ancient poets, contemporary poets, confessional poets.
Angel-headed hipsters, burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo in the machinery of night.
The Poetry Joint. Hang out. See where we go.
Il ferait ce que nous sommes, poussière, jouée de vent, fragile comme des hommes, faibles comme le néant. Alphonse de Lamartine, Pensée des morts. Early in November is Samhain, All Saints' Day, Dios los Muertos, and All Souls' Day. The line between the living and the dead is very thin this time of year. The Hindu celebration of Diwali has just ended. The full moon at the end of the month is sometimes referred to as the darkest depths moon. This episode of the Poetry Joint will explore this thin veil, this season of darkness, finding dead poets and poems to honor and remember. To remember their verse. Welcome to these lines. There is a war on, but I'll try to make you comfortable. Don't follow my conversation. It's just nervousness. Didn't I make love to you when we were students of the East? Yes, the house is different. The village will be taken soon. I've removed whatever might give comfort to the enemy. We are alone until the times change. And those who have been betrayed come back like pilgrims to this moment when we did not yield and call the darkness poetry. That's the opening poem from Leonard Cohen's collection, The Energy of Slaves, published in 1972. I'll return to this poet a little later.
Words and language. No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world. Now, see that look in Mr. Pitt's eye? Like 19th century literature has nothing to do with going to business school or medical school, right? Maybe. Mr. Hopkins, you may agree with him, thinking, yes, we should simply study our Mr. Pritchard and learn our rhyme and meter and go quietly about the business of achieving other ambitions. I have a little secret for you. Huddle up. Huddle up! We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, "O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, What good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
Scene from the movie Dead Poets Society in 1989. What will your verse be? Actor Robin Williams played an English teacher who challenges his students to approach life and learning as an opportunity to be original and extraordinary beings, using poetry as a jumping-off point for expression and inspiration. A quote attributed to poet Emily Dickinson was, "If I feel physically as if the top of my head has been taken off, I know that is poetry." I'm not sure if any poems have inspired you to the point of feeling like your head had been taken off, or if I can find a poem that will blow you away to that extent. Perhaps you're a poet and that poem is still out there waiting for you to discover it, or perhaps you to create it, to add your verse. Emily Dickinson, born in 1830, brought her unique and, for her times, an unconventional approach to poetry. A popular poet today, most of Emily Dickinson's poetry was published after her death in 1886. Death and immortality were common themes in her poetry. She also used society, nature, and spirituality as thematic frameworks. This poem by Emily Dickinson. Forever is composed of nows by Emily Dickinson. 'Tis not a different time except for infiniteness and latitude of home. From this, experienced here, remove the dates. To these, let months dissolve in further months, and years exhale in years. Without debate, or pause, or celebrated days, no different our years would be from Anno Dominis. Emily Dickinson lived much of her adult life as a recluse, rarely venturing out. Only 7 of her poems were published in her lifetime. Another 1,800 poems published after her death at age 55. She is buried in West Cemetery in Amherst, Massachusetts, USA. People often leave pencils and pens at her gravesite as a way of saying she inspired their writing. Across the Atlantic Ocean, Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, France, was established in 1804. 110 acres with cobblestone pathways winding among trees, headstones, mausoleums, statuary, and burial chambers. It is the final resting place for a great variety of famous actors, musicians, writers, and poets, and dead revolutionaries, and more. November 1st, people come to lay flowers on the graves of those they remember most. One of the most visited graves at Père Lachaise, and one of those I would visit, is that of singer-songwriter and former frontman of the rock group The Doors, American Jim Morrison. Morrison, also a poet, died in Paris in 1971, age 27.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah.
Many of the buildings in Paris are built of limestone that was quarried and mined from the Paris area. Buildings like the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, Notre Dame Cathedral, and more. The old quarries contribute to an invisible underground city of tunnels and rooms starting in the late 1700s. The existing quarries and tunnels were used to transfer bones from overflowing Paris graveyards and to dump those bones into what is now commonly known as the Paris Catacombs, where lie the remains of over 6 million people. The remains of this next poet are interned at another Paris cemetery, Montparnasse, 5 minutes away from the official entrance to the Paris Catacombs. This poem is by Charles Baudelaire, born in 1821, died in 1867, translation by Timothy Donnelly. His words take us momentarily higher.
Elevation. Over gutters and over parking lots, over rooftops, foundations, cloud banks and the bay, beyond the sun, beyond the medium that fills unoccupied space, beyond the confines of the unknown. Universe, ghosts, you slip out of me with the ease of a swimmer, at one with the waves, furling the deep with a pleasure we can't articulate. As we fly from contagions of the world, bathing in vibrations, shed in silence from the stars, drinking up the cold, clear fire that purifies our emptiness. Only when you ferry us here, beyond the tedium and despair that weighs us down, can we be happy. Only when animated wings beat us through the haze of life and lift. Up into the luminous do our thoughts like birds, trace patterns in the pearl gray sky, and hover over life, understanding without effort the lexicon of flowers, and the syntax of it all will die.
That reading by Guy Chambers of the Parkland Poets Society. Baudelaire had an interesting life in many ways. Some of his poems, first published in 1857, were put on trial for breaking the laws of religious and moral values. 6 of his poems were found guilty, and they remained banned until 1947. There is a long article on Baudelaire on the Poetry Foundation website. I'll leave a link on the Poetry Joint Facebook page. Baudelaire also translated the work of American poet Edgar Allan Poe into French, and as a result, Poe gained a more earnest following in France than in his native United States.
A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe, read by Hiram Larew. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet, if hope has flown away, in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. Oh God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream?
That reading by Hiram Larew from Maryland, USA. Edgar Allan Poe was originally buried in an unmarked grave at Westminster Presbyterian Church graveyard in Baltimore, Maryland, USA. The circumstances of his death at age 40 a mystery. Some 25 years after his burial, when Poe's work had grown in stature in America, a memorial stone was commissioned for his grave. Then, because the memorial stone was too big for the original plot, Poe's remains were dug up and relocated to a more prominent part of the graveyard. Back across the sea to another Westminster church. Westminster Abbey in London, England, is the site for the coronations of British monarchs and of royal weddings. Some former monarchs are buried in Westminster Abbey. Edward the Confessor, buried there in 1066. Henry V, Elizabeth I, and Charles II, among many others. The south transept of Westminster Abbey has a section called Poets' Corner, where poets, playwrights, and writers are buried or commemorated. Geoffrey Chaucer was buried there in 1400. William Shakespeare has a monument placed there in 1740. Rudyard Kipling, Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, Charlotte, Anne, and Emily, William Blake, among many others buried or memorialized. Not all the reputations of the buried and memorialized have survived the years as well as their poems have. If a poem is read over 1,000 times by 1,000 different people, if over 1,000 listeners all hear and interpret a poem in their own way, if a poem is still read over 100 years after it was written, does the poem take on its own life? This poem from 1910.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor look too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life for broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at the beginning, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are done, and so hold on when there is nothing in you, except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 40 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Rudyard Kipling was born in 1865. A writer and poet, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1907. His ashes were buried in Poets' Corner in 1936, next to Charles Dickens and Thomas Hardy. The first published woman poet in Alberta was Rhoda Cosgrave Sivell, born in 1874. She wrote an illustrated poetry book, Voices from the Range, in 1911. She was also a rancher in the Medicine Hat area and wrote a book about that experience. She passed away in 1962. She is buried at Hillside Cemetery, Medicine Hat, Alberta. This is one of her poems read by modern-day poet Doris Daley.
This is a poem by Rhoda Sivell called They Keep A-Stealing on You in the Night. When you think you have forgotten and have lived the feelings down, and have shoved the best that's in you out of sight, you don't trouble in the daytime when you're busy up in town, but they keep a-stealing on you in the night. They keep a-stealing on you when the world has gone to rest, and bring the past before you bright as day. You can hear the horses neighing, you can hear the riders whoop in the valley by the river far away. You don't see them in the daytime in the city's noise and din, but when night hangs her curtain from the sky, they keep a-stealing on you, those dear familiar scenes, and you know you'll not forget them till you die. And your old top horse is standing with his saddle by the door, and he whinnies when you're comin' into sight. 'Tis years since last you saw him, you don't think of him in town, but he keeps a-stealing on you in the night. And your honey, she is riding by the river all alone, and some way it doesn't seem quite right, for you're hustling, making money up in town, but your sweetie's face, it breaks your heart at night. When you think you have forgotten and have lived the feelings down, and have shoved the best that's in you out of sight, just get a horse and saddle, and drift out from the town, to the thoughts that steal upon you in the night.
A simple gravestone marks Leonard Cohen's burial site at Shar Hashemayim Cemetery in Montreal, Quebec. Rolling Stone magazine in their 2016 obituary referred to him as the poet of brokenness. A singer, songwriter, novelist, and poet. For a while, even a Zen monk in California. For a portion of his life, he lived on the Greek island of Hydra. Cohen had a muse and lover there in Marianne Illen. During that idyllic time in the 1960s, he wrote his novel Beautiful Losers and composed many of his iconic songs. In 2016, Cohen was advised that Marianne, then living in Norway, was in the final stages of her battle with leukemia and was asked to write a note. This is not a poem, but the email Leonard then sent to Marianne. It said, "Dearest Marianne, I'm just a little behind you, close enough to take your hand. This old body has given up, just as yours has too, and the eviction notice is on its way any day now. I've never forgotten your love and your beauty, but you know that. I don't have to say any more. Safe travels, old friend. See you down the road. Love and gratitude, Leonard." Marianne passed away July 28, 2016. Leonard passed away November 7th, 2016. Marianne is buried in Vestre Gravland, Oslo, Norway. Marianne, who looked out a window while they lived on Hydra and saw birds sitting on an overhead line and thought they looked like musical notes and suggested to Leonard that he write a song about it.
Comme l'oiseau sur la branche, comme l'ivrogne dans le cœur de la nuit, j'ai cherché ma liberté. Like a bird on the wire, like a drunk in some midnight choir, I have tried in my way to be free.
An article in the Walrus magazine from 2016 starts, "We were all gathered in Calgary's Queen's Park Cemetery at his grave, where a script on a simple wooden cross read, 'Murdoch Burnett, poet.' He had attempted suicide before, so his death hadn't come as a surprise. A Chinook arch pushed the clouds east. After the ceremony, we all went to his sister's home and ate sandwiches, drank coffee, and told stories, and did what every funeral demands: resurrect the best of the deceased and leave the rest in the ground." So wrote author Don Gilmore in a piece titled "A Poet Self-Destructs." I wasn't familiar with Murdoch Burnett, a poet and spoken word performer who was born and raised in Calgary. He hosted a half-hour weekly radio program on 107 Kick FM from 1987 to 1989 called Breaking the Silence. His program focused on poetry. He was the first winner of the Golden Beret Award, which annually honors a spoken word artist who contributes both as an artist and to the community as a whole. And from the little I've read so far, Murdoch worked to build the local poetry scene in Calgary, from his radio program to performing his poetry, to writing his poetry, to inviting various poetic luminaries to Calgary. Here's a poem of his. "Winter Always" by Murdoch Burnett. Recently, there were leaves on the trees in a long Indian summer. The sky was best described as cerulean. I know the sky was cerulean and designed for lovers walking. They walked in the lover's light of the blue autumnal sky, puppy simple and penny proud, together everywhere, in seasonal perfection. Winter came, as it will. Winter came. Another author, Robert McFarlane, wrote a book titled Underworld, A Deep Time Journey. One section of the book detailed the invisible city beneath Paris and his experience traveling forbidden sections of the Paris Underground with experienced Catafield. I'll put a link to the New Yorker article that covers that excerpt from the book, and there he lists the names given to various areas on the Catafield's underground map. If I was a rock group looking for album names, I would consult the map. Or perhaps if I was a poet looking for a book title, the map has names like The Room of Q, The Boutique of Psychosis, The Shelter of the Little Leaves, The Monastery of the Bears, The Clinic of Alien, Room Z. Thank you for listening to the Poetry Joint. My name is Stephen Donahue. We'll be back in a month's time